This is your official invitation to the Pasta Night Club.
We're Michelle
and Ashley,
the female co-founder duo of the Pasta Night Couples Journal Set. We interview couples who are just trying their best.
Let's get into the dirty stuff.
Yeah. Asking the real, hard, sometimes uncomfortable questions we all really want to know.
Oh,
Or
you guys are having
like-
sex every day?
Yeah.
Welcome to Love and Pasta. I'm so excited for today's episode.
Yeah, I'm really interested to hear more about polarity. I didn't know what it was until we reached out to Dr. Christina and I started doing more research on it. And it's actually really interesting. At first, I wasn't so sure about it because I think in society we talk a lot about people being everything, right? You need to be everything, but so the idea of feminine and masculine energy, to me at first I was like, what do you mean? I think a lot of that feminist energy, you're like, no, we can do everything. And so the idea of feminine and masculine energy is a little bit scary in a way. You're like, what do you mean? But I think when you do more research on it, it just makes sense to me in a way too. I don't know. Yeah.
It feels a little bit controversial, honestly.
It does.
I feel like it's one of those things that I'm so hyper aware of masculine and feminine energy. Because Instagram pushes it on me personally. I've seen so much stuff about being your feminine and go stand in a river and touch the grass and be the feminine that your man needs. And that's not necessarily me all the time. And this weird ultra dynamic of both, because I work in male dominated industries. It's like my day-to-day corporate job. And that's what I've done, that I have to be super outspoken and very direct and very, this is how it goes. And I'm super type A. I naturally have a lot of that energy. But then I love cooking and cleaning and having Chris come home and me be in a cute outfit ready to see him. It's weird.
You definitely have both. But I think that is something really special about you too. I feel like you have both of those energies and you know when to use what, and you kind of have that.
I think I've learned
You
because
don't
I've
think
fucked
so?
up relationships because I've been too masculine. Yeah. So
Yeah. Do you think you and Chris have a good dynamic? Do you think he feels like you give him space to have
I
the
think that I have to be
masculine
aware of it a
energy?
lot. I think that I definitely have
Yeah.
to be thinking about it sometimes and recognizing where I'm telling him I want him to be the leader, but then I'm like, oh, well, you should have done it this way. That obviously does not encourage that
Right.
sort of behavior. So I'm excited for this
Yeah.
conversation with her today because selfishly, I'm coming into this with a lot of questions for my relationship with Chris. I feel like
Yeah.
you and Fede have such a flow of he's very masculine, you're very feminine. And I think that that's what you guys stay in that. And it works for you guys really well. But for me, I have to be aware of how I am managing and changing.
Yeah, it's true. I feel like because you are such a boss babe, you're a super hard worker. I think it must be hard to change those energies once you're home. You have that at work. And so how do you change that coming back to your relationship if you want that, right? If you want to have more of the feminine energy in your relationship, it must be so hard to change it from going from work. And then especially when you guys were working together, I feel like that must have been a big challenge.
Because working together, it was almost when we worked together at an office, we were still not together all the time.
Yeah.
Now working at home is wild. It is wild.
Yeah.
And so what I've started doing is literally, so I'll tell him during my work hours, and then I basically create blocks because he wants to talk all the time. You know how Chris is. He always wants to trip it up. And he'll come in when I'm like getting ready for even before this podcast, he was like, hey, so for a reservation for Friday. And I was like, I'm getting ready for work. I can't talk about this right now. But now I've been better that I'm like, okay, come 12:30. And I'm literally blocking off time now on my calendar, Michelle, where it's time for me to talk to him. And I almost like I'll like go walk Diablo and then come back and then talk to him because I have to like decompress myself and like, show up in a different way.
Yeah.
But it makes me feel good that it's possible. Now, we're living in this world where, transgender men or transgender women are playing sports and they're opposite sex or whatever, like how all of that works. Now it's become, I feel like almost even more like boy or girl. Pick one that you show up as. You know what I mean? It's the whole conversation is we want it to be more fluid, but the way that everyone's talking about it, it feels more static. Like it feels like you got to be one or the other. Whereas I feel like this conversation we're about to have with Dr. Christina shows that it doesn't matter what your gender is. It doesn't matter if you're a boy, it doesn't matter if you're a girl, biologically, whatever. It exists in everyone in their own way, and you can throttle those different energies.
Totally. Yeah, I think that's an important thing to talk about with our chat now was that it's not a gender thing, right? The feminine energy and the even though it sounds like, okay, that's a man, that's a woman, it's not about one person can have both energies and it's fluid, right? It might change in different situations and it might change daily or situational. So I think that's interesting to talk about too.
I'm so excited. Okay, let's get into it.
Okay.
Let's call in with her. She's on the line. So welcome to another episode of Love and Pasta. We're so excited to invite Dr. Christina Jerger to be with us today. Dr. Christina is a femininity coach and women's empowerment expert with a focus on helping women embrace their personal power, improve their relationships, and ultimately transform their lives. Through her coaching practice, Femmes Aloud, which I love the name, Dr. Christina supports women in developing healthy boundaries, enhancing communication skills, and creating fulfilling connections in their personal and their romantic lives. She's passionate about empowering women to confidently navigate the complexities of relationships, self-love, sex, and personal growth. Her work, often centered on self-awareness and intentional communication, encourages women to take charge of their emotional well-being, create meaningful partnerships, and celebrate their individuality. With a focus on providing actionable insights, Dr. Christina's coaching programs aim to inspire women to thrive both personally and also within their relationships. So we're so excited to have her here today. Where are you calling in from?
Hi, amazing. Thank you so much for having me. I'm in Tulum right now, enjoying a little bit of play and beach time and nurturing my feminine self. I think this is what we're going to take.
I'm jealous.
So yeah, thank you
Very
very much.
jealous. Okay, so I think, Michelle, the next Love and Pasta episode that we do with Dr. Christina, we need to go to.
We'll go to Tulum. We'll come meet you. We'll record in person.
Amazing. Okay, so let's get right into it. So, Dr. Christina, can you tell us about your journey and how you became a leading expert in women's empowerment?
Yeah, of course. It's basically my own story. So looking back a couple of years, I was like hustling hard, the typical boss babe. I had a corporate career. I was like very happy, making lots of money, feeling fulfilled and pushing through, right? And also in a long-term relationship with a man. And I was like, oh my God, this is like everything I needed, everything like where these things are supposed to be like. But at one point I was like feeling something is pretty off. So when I came home, for example, I was still the boss babe. So I was like bossing my boyfriend around. I was like pushing through, doing all the things. And he was just like, I'm just chilling. So it was just something was like wrong. And I was like also very turned off at some point. And at the end of this relationship, we didn't have the connection anymore. And I was like, okay. And also with my job, I actually ended up having a burnout because I was hustling so hard, right? And there was no time to relax, no time to nourish myself, no time to really think about like having a quiet moment, a slow moment in some way. And at the end of the day, I was like, okay, I don't know where this is actually coming from. Is it the job? Is it the relationship? Is it the living situation? And yeah, I put all eggs into my basket and in one basket, of course. And then I quit the career. I left my boyfriend after 7 years and I sold all of my belongings. So I really was like, okay, I need to get rid, get out of here, right? And I booked a one-way ticket to Bali, a place I've never been before. I was just curious and I saw beautiful pictures on Instagram. I was like, okay, I want to go. I don't know where this is coming from, but I feel like I have to go. And during that journey, like building a new life, building new connections with people, also doing a lot of healing work, and really getting to know myself for the first time. I mean, I was 36 at the time, right? Really getting to know what is this, what I need, what are my needs, my boundaries, my standards. And I was like, okay, Christina, there's a key piece you have missed out the whole time. You are a woman, right? And you are allowed to feel emotions. You are allowed to feel weak sometimes. you're allowed to tell it to other people, no matter what. If you're in the corporate world or if you're in a relationship, you can tell that, right? And then I was okay. I did healing work about that, and I was like, okay, thanks. That's now I know. Like the polarity is real, right? The polarity between a masculine man and the feminine woman, where you can surrender to. That's the juiciest thing and the most protective thing you can ever experience. And from then on, I was like, okay, I need to help more women with that, right? I need to help people not to lose their relationships, to nurture their careers, to feel relaxed at ease, but also to know how to switch it on when you want to hustle hard, right? You need to do it. I mean, we all need to do it sometimes, but then you know how to do it and switch it off. So I'm helping women in the same situations with relationships, also with burnout, everything. Also, if they're single, I help them to get ready for a masculine dream, if you want to say so.
You know, Michelle, just like relationships, furniture tells a story, and sometimes it needs a little love to keep that story going.
Exactly. And that's where Once Upon Upholstery comes in. They're all about restoring the beauty in what matters most. Whether it's your favorite couch or a cherished family heirloom, they've got you covered.
Yeah, Chris and I actually used them to redo our restoration hardware cloud couch after it got completely ruined during our move from Austin to Miami, and they did an amazing job.
I remember that. It's such a good example. Just like couples grow and evolve, so do the pieces that fill your home. Once Upon Upholstery's skilled artisans breathe new life into your furniture, creating spaces that are as timeless as your love story.
So if your furniture needs a fresh start, like your relationship sometimes does, head to onceuponupholstery.com.
And don't forget to follow them on Instagram at Once Upon Upholstery for some major home inspiration. That's so amazing and interesting, and I love your story. And I want to just hear more about the masculine and feminine energy and just like the concept behind that and polarity that you mentioned. It's
Yeah, of course.
Can you tell us a little bit more about
So
that?
as you can see, it is like yin and yang. So you have two different energies, and when they come together, that's the strongest energy you can have. So it's just either way, right? It's just, I mean, of course, it's the end and the extreme pole if you have it, like feminine, like super soft and more nurturing, relaxing in the slow moments. And the masculine energy, when you push through, when you're more thinking, you have like powerful thoughts, you pursue a thing. That's the masculine energy. And the masculine energy comes with more power and like protection, safety. And the feminine needs that because the feminine needs some kind of safety. And if you have it, you can see it as a vase. That's the structure, the masculine. And the feminine is more in the water. It's inside, it can free flow, but it needs to have both. And it's not just you're looking for a man to give you that safety, right? You can give that to yourself first. So you have both within you. And no matter what you're doing, you can activate one part or the other. And it's beautiful when you have both because you can hustle hard, but you can also relax. You can be super feminine around a man, but when you go home alone or whatever you do on your own, you can also have your structure. So you need both.
It doesn't have to do with gender. I feel like a lot of times people hear that, like the feminine energy and the masculine energy, but it doesn't mean that it has to do with gender.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. You have both, right? A man also has to be his feminine side. He also wants to share emotions. He also wants to listen to his intuition. And same for us, we also need structure in our lives. So that's something we need to.
It's really interesting, and I feel like it's so relatable too because you can almost feel it like when you're at work. I feel like it's so much easier to be tuned in to when you're being masculine or turning on the femininity. I think that especially because I've come from super male dominated industries where I've really built my career outside of Pasta Nightclub, that I definitely could recognize where I was leveraging those different pieces, but it was almost like I sort of forgot about how to turn it on and off at home. And I think that this is really interesting as far as how do you see this as playing a role in the dynamics of romantic relationships at home? Like, how do you know how to recognize it or how to turn it on or how to turn it off?
So the thing is, like, for women, it's sometimes difficult, right? We're used to work hard when we have our careers, or you are working in the male dominated field. You already mirror what is showing there, right? And you have to be a certain kind of, it's dominance, of course, because you have your career and you want to pursue it. But then when you come home, just to make this switch in the moment when you're more in tune with your body, because the masculine energy is more in your head. So you're focused, right? And what you're missing out in those moments, it's like being more in tune with your body, your senses. It's shut down because you have to think and you have to pursue. But the moment you tune in and like, hey, how does this feel? Like, what are my senses telling me right now? What can I see? What can I hear? The moment you are more with yourself, you're more present. And when you're more present and you feel your senses, then you're more in your feminine. It's like, hey, I'm home here now. So in my body, I'm home, right? This is something I feel safe. I feel good. I'm home. I can relax now. That's when you know it's a different energy.
That definitely makes sense. That definitely makes sense. And I feel like those are ways too to be able to tap into it, whether you're almost like whether you're alone or you're with your significant other.
And your partner will tell you that,
So-
right? When you're with a man, he will love that. Oh my gosh, she's coming home and she's not the boss babe. I don't want to talk to a man the whole time, right? Give me the beautiful, sensual woman. Just give it. Okay. Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
think that's the hard part, though, is actually balancing those two. And in a relationship, I think a lot of people do still have both energies. So finding a way to balance those energies and kind of like the polarity side of it is really balancing each other out. And so when to be more one versus the
Yeah,
other.
true. And it's also like the extremes, right? Like a very feminine woman is very soft. But it's personality wise. You're not only on the extreme level, you are somewhere in between, and someone is maybe personality wise more a hustler, right? That's okay too. We also have to value those people. It's not just something wrong when you're more in your masculine. Absolutely not. It's a flavor.
Are there women that do tend to be more on the masculine side and they are in a relationship with a man who's more on the feminine side? Does that work too?
I mean, it does. I think for me personally, the moment I realized, because my ex-boyfriend was more feminine, of course, because I was like bossing him, like literally he turned into that, of course, and he showed this side. But like the moment I realized, okay, I want to be more feminine because it gives me more, it's juicy, right? It's a different protection, safety feeling when you're with a masculine man. So I could never go back.
I'm the same. I'm the same.
But I think it's very personal. I'm not judging anyone or just prescribing what to do. It's just something when you experience it and you like it, just go for it.
It's funny that you say that, Michelle, that like you need a masculine man, because I feel the same way.
Yeah.
But it's like such this conundrum where I'm like, I want you to be a leader. I want you to be the
But
masculine.
you're a leader.
Right. But then I'm like, wait, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
So on that note, Dr. Christina, how can in a relationship, as you're going through the journey of your individual growth, how do you still maintain the strong connection with each other? How do you navigate that? If I've always been more masculine, like how do I now all of a sudden be like, oh, I need to step back and be the more feminine?
So I think it starts with you first, right? To know how to flip that around by yourself without having the man, right? So that you have enough moments when you can slow down, when you nurture yourself. So the feminine is always in the slow moment. And you can have that daily, even when you hustle hard. You just have a slower lunch, right? And prioritize time for that. And when you shower in the mornings, just do it a little bit slower with more intentions. So then you know, okay, I'm more in alignment of being feminine. And also what we need, of course, is a man who knows how to handle you, right? A man how to knows to be even stronger, because when we're like a strong woman, like naturally, right? We need someone who's even stronger. Right? So then he's able sometimes also to flip you around in your feminine when he has this masculine energy and he's so strong. The awareness, I think, is the key.
That totally makes sense. I definitely can see that. And I know that, Dr. Christina, that when Michelle and I were talking to you before, that you work with individuals, but you also work with couples. So when you're working with couples, what are some of the most common challenges that you've seen couples face in maintaining a healthy relationship?
Yeah. I mean, it's an everyday life, right? Pretty much when things happen, daily life happens. And sometimes, yeah, the polarity I was talking about, it gets off, right? When the woman is so hustling hard and coming home and being that boss, that's difficult sometimes because they don't focus on it. But it's also about, lack of communication, not talking about the things anymore, not prioritizing, hey, this is my partner, I have needs, I want to say something, but then I don't do it, then I'm questioning it again, and I was like, okay, he's not listening, and then it spirals. So every time you feel something, just say it, right? That's something I experienced, and also putting intimacy on the back burner. Like really that connection. That's something like so cheesy, but it's also very not romantic to just have a conversation about what is the goal of our relationship. What is the strategy,
Right.
how we can nurture our boundaries, our feelings, where we want to be in 5 years, right? It's something that's the real work, right? It's less romantic, but it's needed to face those challenges, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
I feel
I'm happy to hear that being direct or bringing something up or communicating something, like how you said, like when you feel it, say it. I'm happy to hear that that doesn't necessarily get put into the box of being masculine, because I feel like that's sort of how it's labeled. I feel like if you're open to communicating directly, or if something happens and you approach it right away with your partner, I feel like that could feel like aggressive sometimes. But what's your take on that?
Wait, I actually feel the opposite. I feel like that's more of
No?
a feminine energy, and then the masculine energy is wanting to solve the issue. Whereas a feminine energy, you just want
Talk
someone
about
to
it.
listen and to talk about it. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, what's your take on that, Dr.
Yeah, that's super
Christina?
interesting. The thing is, like being feminine, of course, is soft, right? And like slow and emotional, but it doesn't mean that you have to shut up. It doesn't mean that you don't have boundaries. It doesn't mean that you don't have standards. And you have to say something, because the man is never a mind reader, not the other partner as well. So I think that communicating when you need to communicate, but then also when you are like safe and secure, when you takes the lead, of course you're not saying something because everything is fine and you can just surrender.
You said how everyone has kind of both energies, right? So how does that work in a relationship where it's still polarizing in a way when both people have both energies?
There's always one energy that is dominant at that moment. So let's say you're gonna have plans for the weekend, and the man is more in his masculine to make the plans. And of course, you can also step up, and when something is not happening, you can also do that and bring your masculine side out of it. But where you want to surrender, let's let him do the thing. I'm just giving him compassion and gratitude and giving him my emotions and vulnerabilities, and I'm more in the feminine side. And let's say you get your children to school, and then you're driving the car. Of course, you're more in your masculine because you have to do those actions. But then you're also a caring mother, like giving them a kiss to say goodbye. That's also then you're more in your family. So it's constantly switching the things you need.
I think now in society, we're always, the way that I was kind of learning a little bit more about feminine and masculine energy and polarity is also the idea in now society, we're expected to be everything and do everything. So for a man and a woman, right? Like you need to be a boss babe, but you also need to be a caretaker, and you also need to do all the things. And I think that you don't leave enough space for that teamwork and that partnership. So I think a lot of this stuff with feminine and masculine energy and it working together is knowing that you have a teammate to help you and being able to surrender and relax, not feeling like you need to do everything.
Right.
Yeah.
I think like the world is right now, I feel everyone is confused. So what is the role I will fulfill, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely. Like toxic. Like what is he supposed to do now? You know, he needs to
Yeah.
take care of the children, but like then a woman also needs to work because not everyone has a partner
Yeah.
to take care of, right? And then you also need to have your own career, but then you're already harsh and then you're a boss babe. You know, where do you want to fit in, right? And I think
Yeah, it's exhausting.
coming back to like natural gender roles, because a man has more energy, right? A man is more powerful. A man is a problem solver per nature. That's how the nervous system is wired. While a woman is more on the soft side, communication, bringing people together. That's something how people deal with stress, right? And bringing that into the modern world, like having also a career and also a man to take care of children, right? Giving it a more modern label to
Right.
like the traditional gender roles. I think that's the key we should focus on.
Yeah. Just because a man has more of the masculine energy doesn't mean that he's not also a good caretaker with the kids and can do all the
kids, right? So that's something It's very valuable.
I also think that a lot of it comes from the genes and science, right? So the masculine and feminine energy comes from very deep generations and generations and evolution, right? So it's normal to have that. And I feel like now in society it's hard to talk about in a way because they're like, oh, what do you mean feminine energy? I'm everything and this and that. And it is hard to talk about. And I think sometimes it's society is faster than biology in a way, that the evolution part. So there still are these different energies and it's good to work together, but it's in society now it's gotten to another extreme that they're like, no, we can do it all and you can do it all. But I think it's important to understand these energies and how it works together and how it works in a relationship.
100%. We're not competitors, right? Like men and women, they have to compete. And unfortunately, the workplace created that. Like everyone has to be equal and men have to be like, we're in the workforce first. So the women had to be the same in some way to be comparable. But I think, yeah, the feminism is a great thing because it made us pursue our own careers and get out of our homes and to pursue something. But at the end of the day, there has to be a limit. I think it has to flow in some certain, like have a standard rate.
together.
Yeah, but it got too far. So now we have to reverse and disrupt the disruption.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I feel, Michelle, I really liked what you said, that like society moves faster than like the biological piece of it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, Dr. Christina, I'm curious to see what you think about this. So one of the things that I've recognized is that I grew up in a female dominated household with Japanese women that were very much traditional to in the way that we like treated my dad when he came home. Like my dad would come home and my grandma would literally bring him his shoes and be like, everyone stop what you're doing. Come and say hello to your dad, right? And we would all walk into the foyer and be like, hi. And like now that feels so almost like backwards. But then at the same time, I was being put into the best of the best schools to make sure that I was getting my career and that my family was so supportive of every time I wanted to like really go hard for something in my career or in my education. But then my grandma still calls me now to talk to me and my boyfriend. And she's like, are you giving him back massages? Are you cooking all of his food? And I'm like, did you just hear me say I just got back from speaking on a panel at a national trade conference? So, Dr. Christina, where does that come from? And like for those of us that saw it at home, do you do what you see at home, or is it something that like everyone makes themselves?
Wow, that's super interesting. I feel like you have both extremes right now. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's a crazy story. Yeah.
And that's how I was raised, though. It's wild.
Yeah.
Okay, when I started our pasta night tradition, I never realized how much it would impact our relationship for the better. I've never been super into journaling, to be honest, but designing the pasta night journal has given us a way to follow our progress.
It's the same with me and Chris. Honestly, it was really hard for us to find intentional time to connect with each other, but the Pasta Night journal set finally gave us that space to do so. And it's also made us better communicators in our relationship.
Right? It's such a simple yet meaningful way to keep the communication flowing. It's for couples who want to dive deeper into their connection, but in a fun, relaxed way over dinner and maybe some pasta.
Exactly. It's not about waiting for the right moment, it's about creating it. Imagine a cozy night in, a great pasta dish, and some thoughtful prompts to get you talking about the things that really matter.
Not to mention, it's like a mini date night in a box. You can even make it a monthly tradition like we do. It's such a great way to reflect and grow together.
And the best part, just like us, you don't have to be a relationship expert. It's designed to be lighthearted yet meaningful with prompts that help guide deeper conversations.
So if you're looking for something to spark more connection in your relationship, this is it. It's our favorite way to keep the love and the conversation going.
Head over to pastanightclub.com to grab your Pasta Night journal set and bring more intentional love into your relationship. You can also follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Pasta Night Club for more date night inspiration and relationship tips.
We can't wait to see you there.
I think you have two influences, right? I feel like home influenced you a lot, but also the outside world. Having a career and being in the workplace. I think this gave you a little bit of more of a branding too. So yeah, I think it depends on what you like to listen to, I think. Of course, when coming from a very traditional household, and then going in the outside world, and it gets a new reflection. Sometimes you're biased, but you also have both within you, I think. I mean,
that's really interesting.
yeah. So, but I think, yeah, if it gets too extreme, like giving a guy back massages or saying hello when he comes home, that's something I would personally not listen to. So I wouldn't do it.
Right.
Although I'm the boss babe and I know how to please a man, but I'm having my own flavor of doing it. And I think you have that too, and how you do with the things. If you agree with them, you do it. If not, but you're still aware of like how it is to put a man up here. I think that sometimes when it's too extreme, you put a man up there and I do everything for you. This is not the feminine. The feminine is very strong, but more in silence.
So what are some actions if you do want to get more in tune with your feminine energy? What are the actions that you do, and how does that work in a relationship? How do you treat the other person or communicate about it? How do you make them more in their masculine energy, if that's
that's a beautiful question.
What relationship?
Every work starts with yourself first, right? To really have the awareness, how does it feel to be feminine? And the feminine only shows up when you are calm. So give yourself enough compassion. Do the things he would like to have as a feminine, from a feminine woman, right? Compassion, how to nurture yourself. It's not only doing more self-care, but really slowing down. Whatever you like doing and getting to learn to use your senses. And also what I teach my clients, it's called pleasure makeover. It's not only in the sexual way, but it's like pleasure in your daily life. It can be visuals that you find appealing, or it can be a surrounding you work in or you live in, when, oh my God, if I have this or that, I feel good. I feel like some way turned on, right? And then you're in tune with your senses and you're more present. That's what it is about, to be more present and to really feel, right? Then you can listen to your intuition because it shows up. Then you can feel what's showing up in your body, in your beautiful. And I think when you know how to do that, like creativity comes up, right? Your sex drive comes back. And everything is like, oh my God, it's flourishing. It's in the flow and everything is so easy, right? And then, this is the part.
I feel like it's like that, like romanticizing, right? Like that, like trend that we're seeing, especially like on socials and stuff, like romanticizing like the things that you're doing in the everyday. I used to listen a lot to this girl that had a podcast, something about champagne. I forget what it's called, but we'll link her in the notes. She's really interesting, but she taught me about something that I thought was really interesting. So she used to always talk about, if you're having like a day and you're feeling like you're not like in your own, treat yourself to something. Like go to a pretty restaurant. You don't have to sit and have an expensive meal alone or something, but go and like having a glass of champagne.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And like sitting on your own
Yeah,
and like
little treats for
relaxing.
yourself.
Yeah. Is that what we could do, Dr. Christina? Instead of putting your coffee into, I don't know, your Stanley for the day or something, like putting it in a teacup and sitting somewhere really beautiful and enjoying it and having that like moment.
Yeah, that's the slow moment. What do you like to do, right? If you have a nice foam bath or some bubbles or something, you have your favorite coffee shop, you go there every day. Oh my God, this is now with intention. Or you have a favorite lunch spot. You go there, feel like, oh my God, I'm just feeling so good and so nourished, right? I think that's it is about like being present and doing the things you love, because then you show up differently, right? You bring that positive energy, like, oh my God, I'm so relaxed. You bring that to your partner. And that's,
I think what's hard is a lot of times when you do want to slow down is you feel like a man now is expecting a lot from women too. It's, oh, but why aren't you more like working more, reading more, this and that? And so it kind of goes along with the polarity of a man can also just appreciate the different contributions, like for a man and a woman or whatever gender, like the polarity of respecting and valuing different contributions and not feeling like it all needs to be the same, because I feel like that gives the feminine energy enough space to be like, it's good. It's good to slow down. It's good to have self-care, but you want to feel that is also respected by the partner, right? Because a lot of times it doesn't feel like it is. So there's this disconnect there.
Yeah, I agree. And regarding your question, how to make a man more masculine, We don't want to
Yeah.
teach him, but at the end of the day, we want to teach him because we gain now this awareness and look, there's something off. And I highly recommend that when he's taking the lead in some tiny steps, let's say he plans a dinner, you want to reward him. I was like, hey, I love that you do that. This is like so hot, you know, like something.
Give him a little treat,
Right?
like
And
a
you
little
just
dog.
do that. And this is how you actually teach him to do the things you like. And also when he's there, whatever he comes home and you're not just, you know, I'm chilling now, don't do anything. You just can give him an intense kiss. You can spice things up, right? Or when he really, a reward can be like an intense kiss when he takes out the trash. It's just in a simple example, but it's like, oh, okay, what she's doing, right? And also when he initiates sex, for example, you're more like, okay, take me now, right? I'm more relaxed now. I'm really surrendering right now. And then you can feel, okay, she's different now. She's not just so dominant today. It's okay, interesting. And then it spices that up like on a subtle way.
That's funny how it like happens naturally too. Okay, so I have a weird story from literally last night. So Chris and I got back from New York. We had the longest week. We had tons of work stuff in the city all week. And then we went to one of my best friend's wedding in East Hampton this weekend. And being able to tell your boyfriend like, oh, I want you to be more masculine, or I want you to do like things a certain way, that would not go over well in my relationship, at least. I don't foresee it going over well. But it was funny because so last night we got home, we were so tired. And when he opened up our suitcases, like a lot of times he'll just open up his. Like yesterday, I don't know why, but he like opened up mine too. And then he took my toiletry bags and put them in the bathroom for me. And I was like so weirdly turned on by it, even though I was so tired. We had sex last night. And I think like it was because I was like, wow, you know, like I was like, oh, that's really like taking care of me and doing it. And now I think that I bet that he'll unpack my But that's cool. And it's cool to just even be aware of those moments. That's why I love talking to you, Dr. Christina, is because even just like now realizing, okay, that was something I did good, and like honing in on it and now being like, okay, where else can I replicate that? I feel like is like really just having this in my mind is so helpful.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Do you think it's more about those little actions that you take? What Ashley was just saying, actually taking action when someone is doing something good in a way that you want to give them a little reward? Or is it something that you can communicate about in the relationship? Or is that, how do you have that conversation about the different energies? Is it something that you communicate, or is it more about the actions that you take?
Just taking the action is also very powerful, right? Because he can feel that you are somewhat different and he responds with a different energy. Because when you give him space, the feminine is relaxing, just leaning back. And he's like, okay, there's something missing here. So I'm now taking a step forward and taking the action, right? And then you can solve a problem. You can come with a simple problem, right? And he's like, okay, let's fix that. You know, so that's something, oh my God, I can be strong. I can provide. I can just protect and take actions. The more you lean back, the more he has to step forward. That's something that should happen naturally. But I know everyone is different and every relationship is, of course, different. I would also highly recommend to speak about the things. I mean, not speaking about feminine and masculine energies. I think this is a little bit too much or too woo-woo for some people. Well, it's not, right? Because some people don't know. But just in a subtle way, hey, I like when you do this, or I have a need to that you help me with that, or this was like so sexy when you did that. And I was like, really? You can tell him, like, I was so turned on when you did that. Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, toiletry bags.
Yeah. And then you sort of whenever and had a better sex as well.
What happens if like you've tried to have the conversation, or like you really feel like you're doing as much as you can to do the actions like you're saying, and you don't see it changing? Like, is there a world that exists where some people just can't tap into that polarity and be able to leverage it, and some people are just kind of like that's their thing? And like, at what point are you like, okay, this femininity that my other half is showing me like isn't making me fulfilled? Like, does that exist?
Yeah, it does, I think. The thing is, like, my story, I told you, right? I, at that point, without healing and without working on myself, I would still be more in my masculine. I wouldn't know how to do it. So that's the thing. You have to do some work on yourself first. And the same with the man. Although we say the man is a natural provider, he has more power. But some people don't know how it is to protect something, you know? It depends on how they grew up. And also they grew
Yeah.
up, have there been like a strong father figure, like showing, hey, this is how to provide and protect. If not, it's sometimes difficult. And also like people I met along the way and couples I met along the way, it's very different. And I can understand when you start healing and when you realize, okay, I want to be more of a feminine woman, but the man, no matter what we do, is not going to work. It's not going to work. But then it's okay too. Then we have to go separate ways. It's just that when you feel like, okay, this is something it's a need for me right now. I need to have more of that. And if it's not possible for him to give me that, it's okay. You know, that's something part of change and part of development as well. Yeah. Let's face it.
That makes sense. And then what we've all been talking about like these external pressures, right? Career, family, maybe cultural or family implications that they've sort of stamped on you, like what's happened to me, or personal struggles, like how those things all affect relationships. What advice do you give to couples that are facing like hurdles in those different categories of like how to make things better?
So first of all, I think communication is key number one. Talk about everything that comes up, whether it's like you have a bad time at work, you come home, just tell them. Or something you got a call from a family member, this is bothering you, tell them. Or something great happened, tell them. It's something is positive and negative. And then also find strategies and define your relationship, how you want to get treated, right? Let's say I'm coming home and have good news. Of course, I want to celebrate. Why are you sitting on the couch? Let's do something, right? And also in the negative scenarios, like, hey, I need a hug when I'm coming home from work because there's something going on, right? Something, and develop that together. I think this is something that brings you closer as well, so that you get unshakable. No matter what is life's throwing at you, you're just the power couple and you're good together. And it's also something that I see, like you have to nurture intimacy and connection. It's like a muscle you train the whole time when you're in a relationship. But when you stop training, because there's so many challenges and things coming up and responsibilities here and there, if you don't train, you're going to lose it, right? It's like the same with your comfort zone. When you're not doing the things, you're not expanding, but also you fall back with things you haven't done in a while. And if you put like intimacy or sex, if you put that on the back burner, you're going to lose it. You don't even know at one point how to do it. I've been there too. So that's the thing, like how is intimacy like showing up? And you have to nurture this. And I think doing date nights, traveling together, and fulfilling each other's needs and really committing to that as well. As much as you commit to a relationship, you commit to like intimacy and you commit to spending time together and not losing it.
Yeah. You also wrote something on our Instagram the other day that I really liked. You had left a comment about how one of the things that makes you feel really secure and really loved in a relationship is being able to share some sort of like a fantasy with your partner and then having them actually, you know, fulfill that fantasy is something that's like such a turn on. If you're in a relationship and you have problems, or maybe not a problem, right? But like there's something like that, like sometimes there can be a big block of like, how much do you tell them? Or does it make you feel uncomfortable? Or does it make them feel uncomfortable? Can you talk a little bit about like how you would help a couple get through a situation like that?
So I think personally, when you exactly know what you want to go for it. So it oftentimes starts with the fact, like, how do I really know what I like? Is this something I really need a partner for, or this is something I could give to myself? It depends, right? But let's say about the fantasies I was referring to in that post, of course, it was like the sexual fantasies, right? And the way I would do that is, I mean, you have to be brave if you would want to have this fulfilled. You just have to say it because the person is not going to mind. You know, you cannot drop your phone, whatever, and have something open like, hey, can you? You know, it's just you have to say it, right? And I think if you have a close connection and you have an intimacy build, I mean, you guys are in a relationship. So I expect you to speak, right? And just tell them what to do. And I think for a man, it's nothing sexier than when a woman tells me, oh God, she likes that. Of course I'm going to fulfill that. Do I want you to go to somewhere else? No, I don't want that, right? So of course I'm going to fulfill it. And I think this is the massive turn on when you have this interplay of, hey, I'm voicing my needs, I'm sharing my vulnerabilities, my sexual fantasies, and you listen, right? You take that on, you think about it, and I'm not judging you for whatever you like. I'm going to try. And I'm open to fulfill your needs, because in return, when I fulfill that, you're more satisfied. My woman is more satisfied, and probably she surrenders more. She's more there for me. She listens, and she's also taking care of me as well. And I think this is the polarity again. Like, it's a give and take. And if both partners bring that to the table, it's beautiful. It spirals up to Mars, right? So that's something that we want.
Yeah. And I really like what you keep going back to. That's a lot of self work, right? Because you can't really work together if you don't know what you like, if you don't know what energy you're giving off, if you don't know that in yourself, it's going to be really hard to show up in a partner, understand what you need and how to work together. So I really like how you keep going back to the idea of you really need to know yourself and do the work yourself. Yeah, so I feel like that's really powerful, and you've explained a little bit on how to do that self-work, which is good. I don't know if you have any final tips on how you can actually understand yourself better.
Yeah, as I said, it's the first part is you, so that you know what you want to do.
Yeah.
And it's like really getting to know what my needs are, also the pleasures, what are my boundaries, where I'm even defining my own being, in which frame am I, those things. And like journaling helps a lot. That's definitely something. It helps you to get things off your head, but also to write it down and to bring more of a distance also between thoughts and things and growth and learning something. And the moment you voice that, even if it's on paper, you will have more confidence to voice it towards your partner. I think that's something, because you said it once, you can say it twice, right? And also what I like doing is mirror self-talk, really facing yourself, looking into your own eyes and like, hey, girl, how are you doing today? What's on, right? And also you can do that naked. And it also helps you to fall in love, you know? It's like you can do whatever pussy gazing, you can do beautiful things because it's you, right? And you fall in fucking
Wait, what? Wait. What? Sorry, Dr. Christina. I just stopped in my tracks. I know we're online, so maybe I heard it wrong. Did you say pussy
Yeah, you
gazing?
just spread your legs in front of the mirror and have a look. It's beautiful. You will love it. You know, and
Yeah,
so many
I think that's
you know, so many
powerful.
women I work with, they don't even know how they look like. And it's a beautiful thing to watch at and to motivate yourself. You can even, when you do the mirror self-talk, you can talk dirty, you can motivate yourself. You know, it's really facing who you are, right? It's just something, it like deepens the connection and your confidence as well.
It's sad that it's such an awkward thing to talk about. I feel like that's such a society thing of, oh no, you don't talk about that. That's so taboo. And it's sad because it is a nice thing to talk about. It should be more open. And it might take time, right? It might take at first it might feel very awkward to do something like that. And you're like, okay, what am I doing? So I think it probably just takes time to get more and more comfortable with that and be able to
I agree. And also to face
really get to know
yourself, right? And just look into your eyes for a couple of minutes. In the beginning, you can do 60 seconds, whatever, and then you feel like good, like, hey, this is like who I am. I'm not going away. You are not going away. This is your vessel for the whole time. And I think like if my partner can see my pussy and knows how it looks down there, I have to know first if I'm going to present this. Of course, I need to know how I look like, right? And
Ashley, I feel like this is something that neither of us has done, and now I feel like we're gonna have to go do it.
My poor vagina, I haven't been speaking to her. Maybe this is like why some of my
It's our homework.
And you know, that's the most, when we talk about feminine again, that's the most feminine part of your body. It's the center of life, if you would want to say, to the whole part. So you can talk to her, get her some new lingerie, a new toy. You can play around. It's you. Like, it's feminine. So like, don't feel ashamed or but start trying. And then it gets better with practice. Again, it's a muscle you're going to train.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting. That's really helpful. Also, one of the things that you touched on, it's funny because, so as I told you, I'm hyper aware of the fact that I am masculine in my day-to-day work. And so, and my communication style can be masculine sometimes. And one of the things, not to selfishly plug Pasta Night Journal, but in the journal sets, one of the things that I've personally found most helpful is that as life is happening, I'm bulleting constantly in my Pasta Night Journal with the prompts that we have. And then it gives me the opportunity to sort of step away. And then when I come back to have the pasta night with Chris, and when I'm talking him through those pieces, it kind of gave me the opportunity to like take my thought or to take what I'm asking for or what I need, and then make sure that when I'm getting that opportunity to speak to him, I'm positioning it in a way that feels less like I'm telling him what to do. And it feels more like I almost give myself the second opportunity to like see it again, which I feel like is like what you were saying. If I can say it once in my journal, I can say it out loud, but I can also say it differently than maybe I said it the first time. And that to me has been really helpful. Not to mention this conversation, like now as I'm doing things, I'm constantly going to be thinking, Dr. Christina, of like some of these tips you've given. I think it's really helpful.
Okay, that's amazing.
I mean, going back to the journal piece, so like structured reflection, how do these things help couples deepen their connection and understanding of each other? Like we talked a lot about, like, you have to do that self work first, but then now as you start like incorporating your partner into this growth together, what could that look like for a different couple?
After you journal about yourself, what do you like, right? And how do you want to see the relationship to flourish? And every time you have like an argument or something that it feels like love, you take your journal and you journal about that, right? And then you realize maybe you find a solution while you journal. Maybe you get more relaxed, as you said. So like the initial thoughts are not sometimes the best. And usually when we don't do this work and when we don't step away, we throw out like things and we say things and we actually don't mean it because it's something we're driven by a lot of emotions. And I think like a journal, as you said, so as also the pasta journal helps you to calm down. It helps you to reflect.
That's what I really love about it.
Yeah,
For sure.
I agree. It's been really helpful. What if your partner doesn't want to journal, Dr. Christina?
I don't force anyone to journal. So if they don't see,
Give them a treat. A very special treat.
if they don't like it, that's okay too. They maybe have a different way to express themselves. Maybe they work out and then they sort their thoughts while being on the treadmill, right? Or something, they go for a walk or something. It's different. I always recommend it as something that helped me so much personally as well, and also my clients and my couple of clients. But yeah, I cannot force anyone to do it. I can just give the opportunity and, hey, this is something you want to try?
My husband, we started Pasta Night Journal, but it wasn't, we were never the journaling type. I don't know. I just always bought journals, but never actually worked in them. And my husband was definitely not the type to want to journal. But using it has helped us so much because a lot of times you're thinking through something or you don't want to be reactive when you're coming to your partner with a problem. And sometimes that's the first reaction you have is like, why this and that? And you're mad. And so I feel like with journaling, you get a lot of that self-reflection of, okay, how am I feeling in this moment? And then it does make you think about it like, oh, okay, maybe I'm overreacting here. Maybe it kind of gives you that space to self-reflect and think about, one, is this really an issue, or not only is it issues, right? Sometimes it's really amazing things that happen that you want to also remember. But I think it gives you that space and that time to reflect on it, to write it down, because a lot of times I forget too. And so I like to bullet point, like you were saying, Ashley. I don't like really long journal prompts and stuff, but I do like to just remind myself of these things. So when I have these conversations, we're both ready to have it. And so for us, it wasn't, okay, we're going to start journaling now. It was like, why don't we try this? See how it works, see how we like it. Like we're both committing to at least doing it once. And then it worked really well. And so we kept wanting to do it more and more. But it wasn't like, I'm making you do this or you're making me do this. It was like, we want to get better together.
Yeah, 100%. It's a beautiful way to express yourself, to clear the air before you interact again, and to come up with own solutions maybe. That's a good thing.
For sure.
So what is the one big piece of advice that you would give to couples looking to strengthen their bond in today's fast-paced, very often disconnected world? What is it, Dr. Christina?
Of course, there's so many things, but I would say to commit to intimacy and to really spend time together. However this looks like, I love the pasta nights. I think this is a very incredible way to nurture connection and intimacy and get creative. Whatever the type of pasta you're gonna cook, even the surrounding where you want to eat it doesn't mean you have to sit at the kitchen table. Take it into the car, drive somewhere, watch the sunset, and be creative, dress up, be nicely, and be prepared and commit to a time that you can spend together. I think that's the most important part, to take the time to speak, whatever, but commit and train that muscle for intimacy.
I love that. And I love how date nights can really be customized to like where you're at in your relationship too. I've definitely recognized the nights where when it's okay, you know, this is a pasta night that we want to do at home on the couch together, like cuddled up. This is a pasta night we want to do out at Cicconi's at the restaurant, sitting down together, dressed up, to your point. I feel like that's one thing that I've also recognized is it's not just a one size fits all. It can really be made the way that answers to what you need in your relationship, you know?
And it's like your own recipe, right? Your own ingredients you bring to the pasta date night.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's awesome. So this has been absolutely such an enlightening, interesting conversation. I think that Michelle and I got so much out of it, and we can't wait to share it with other couples looking to strengthen their bonds as well.
Christina, where can people find you?
So my Instagram is at I am Dr. Christina, and I also have a YouTube channel where I share a lot of tips, like I call them femininity quickies, because we also have not so much time left, but you have a quick time to watch something. So it's a very quick and dirty kind of way to have better sex, find the man of your dreams, or nurture your relationships. And that's also, the channel is also called I am Dr. Christina. And I also have a website called Femmes Aloud.
Thank you so much. This was such a great talk and really enjoyed hearing more all about feminine and masculine energies.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, listen, if you're planning a wedding, you have to know about guest lists. It's like your own private social network for your big day, which is so cool. It keeps all of your guests connected in one spot. Honestly, it's so much better than just a wedding website. With guest lists, your guests can connect with each other, ask questions, and you can share real-time announcements and updates. There's also a shared photo album, so everyone can upload their pictures after the event. My husband and I went to a destination wedding where they used guest lists, and it was so much fun. The couple built excitement before the weekend by posting local guides, recommendations, and cute photos of the two of them. And even though we didn't know many people going, we connected with other guests through the app. My husband even organized a golf day with some of them, and it was great because he didn't have to bother the bride and groom for people's contact info. I also loved seeing everyone's photos in the shared photo album after. It made the whole experience a lot more personal. If you're planning your wedding, go to the App Store and download Guest List now. Search Guest List Wedding App in the App Store or Google Play Store, or head to getguestlist.app to learn more. You can also follow them on social media at getguestlist. That was another amazing episode of Love and Pasta.
Share your love story with us on Instagram, Pinterest, or TikTok at Pasta Night Club. We can't wait to see what you send, and we'd love to feature you on our next episode.